The epic feud between the Iga and Koga ninja clans finally return in the brand new season of Basilisk, the Ouka Ninja Scrolls. First off, let me just say, I am really excited that they finally decided to do another season of Basilisk. Basilisk is an anime series that I saw like a decade ago, which completely blew my mind, and it really bothered me that no one ever talked about it. It was one of the most like hardcore ninja anime that I've ever seen. It kind of reminded me of watching the 1980s classic Ninja Scroll. It carries a lot of that same gravitas and feel, and it looks like they're trying to replicate that again with a brand new season, which to me, unfortunately, doesn't really live up to the lofty heights of the first season of Basilisk. I'll get to it in a little bit in a second, but what I will say is, I haven't watched Basilisk in like a decade. It was sort of tough to get into the season, to have to remind myself of all of these characters and the things that they did. So forgive me if I miss some of the details, and definitely forgive me if I mispronounce things, because that's going to happen a lot with this series. There are some hardcore Japanese names that my stupid American mind just cannot comprehend. So there it is. Let's just jump into Basilisk, the Ouka Ninja Scrolls. So this is a direct sequel to the original series. It takes place a couple of years later, and we get to see that the Iga and the Koga clan are still around, and they're still prepping their young ninja. And that's going to be one of the biggest changes about this season, is that most of the main characters look like they're going to be a little younger. And basically, this entire plot is almost an exact replica of the first one in many ways. It's about these two rival clans. They want these two people to come together so that they can bring an end to this massive conflict. It's going to result in a lot of feudal war and crazy ninja powers and some sort of weird Romeo and Juliet styled love story. The thing is, though, in this one, things are a little different. You see, in the original series, there was Koga and Oboro, and they were in love with each other, and they had children together, and everything was fine. In this series, the Iga and Koga clans want both the son and daughter of these two characters to fall in love with one another, and basically have sex, make babies, and keep the clan going. The problem is they're brother and sister. This is just kind of creepy. Look, I'm not one to question other people's cultures, and if there's one thing that I've learned from watching a lot of anime, there's a lot of incestual stuff out there, and they make it clear that in this season it's something that they don't necessarily want to do, but it is best for the future of these clans. So you have these two siblings, brother and sister. There's Hachiro and there's Ibiki, and they're basically going to be the main characters of the series, and they look just like their parents, like scarily like them, almost identical aside from, say, the color of the hair. And they're training with all of these other young ninja students who are being trained by the most amazing Koga ninja ever. And they all have tons of really crazy abilities. Some of them are wearing armor, some of them have the ability to create illusions, some of them could quite literally take their eyeballs right out of their head and use them for reconnaissance. And it's all really freaking awesome. The first action scene is basically like a training exercise between all of these ninja, and it is pretty freaking great, I have to admit. It's not like the most mind-blowing thing I've ever seen, but it's really fun, and the fact that they are children, I can't help it, but it just reminds me of Naruto, and they could not be more different from one another. It's just ridiculous. While all of this is also going on, there's convoluted subplots going on with these new characters. This one Shogun guy who's being attacked by all of these ninja when suddenly he is saved by the Koga ninja, who come in and just behead people in the most ridiculous, over-the-top, and violent fashion way possible, and it all looks really freaking awesome. Basically, the main story here is that we have this ninja clan which is trying to force these two people to fall in love with each other so that the clan can continue to flourish. And of course, so that they can sort of preserve the special abilities of these two characters. They have these really awesome gnarly eye abilities which make them very effective in battle. But really, we don't get to know anything about the main characters in this episode. Basically, it's just sort of setting up the overall premise, where we are currently in the world, and also giving us a lot of weird things that make no sense, like a scene with Nobunaga at the beginning of the episode. Really, a lot of this will also hinge on your knowledge of Japanese history and big names and stuff like that, because some of it does tie in, but most of the stuff here is pretty fictional. In fact, I'd say it's extremely fictional. But Does it live up to the first season of Basilisk? Well, that brings us to the rundown on this week's episode of Basilisk, the Ouka Ninja Scroll. So I was really excited for another season of Basilisk, despite the fact that I was a casual fan. I really loved the first season. I was really excited to see what they were going to do with it. And throughout the entire episode, I couldn't help it, but I felt disappointed. I feel like that the production value of the series has gone down a little bit, and it definitely doesn't look as good as the original Basilisk, in my humble opinion. In fact, go back and watch the first episode of Basilisk, and then watch this first episode, and you tell me which one is more exciting. You're all going to say the first episode of the original series, and that's because they really put on one hell of a show in that episode. They brought everything they had to the table, and they gave us a big, ridiculous, over-the-top action scene, which was damn near movie quality. This episode right here has some moments which are really weird, off-model, and just don't live up to the original series. I don't know if a different team is animating it, or if there's a new director this time around. I mean, this is a sequel to a series which we have not seen in a very long time, and I'm still a firm believer in that the older that anime gets, what I mean by that is the further we get into the history of anime, I think they continue to cut corners in terms of like quality, in terms of what we're actually watching. Maybe it's because I'm nostalgic for the days of hand-drawn anime, but Basilisk, the original anime, wasn't even hand-drawn in the first place. So I'm not sure why this one just does not look as good as the original series. That being said, it's mostly a retread of the original series. Basically, it's history repeating itself yet again. What I will say is it's still very early on in the series. It's still the first episode, and there could be some very big changes. What I will say, though, there are a lot of really cool characters with cool powers. There's this dude named Kazuma who has a giant, like, whip sword that's insane. The main character himself, Hachiro, the son of the original character, is apparently freaking awesome. He's the leader of the entire clan. And all of the younger characters, like, they all have some unique abilities. Like I said, there's even this one girl who uses guns, which I think that's going to be really interesting. I can't wait to see more of the dynamic between these younger characters and where that's ultimately going to go in this series, and if it's all going to end the same way the original Basilisk series ended, which was with a lot of fire and blood. So, let's just wait and see. What I will say is I think the first episode was kind of flawed and nowhere near as good as I think the original Basilisk anime series, but that could change in time. What I will say is the first episode is a 3 out of 5. Just kind of an average anime experience. But still, you might get something out of it, and you might like it more than I do, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about it, and you can tell me in the comment section below. Did you watch the brand new episode of the next big season of Basilisk? Are you a fan of the original? Did this one live up to the hype, or did it not? Do you have a favorite new character from this episode, and where do you hope this season is going to go? And as always, stay down there, baby.